and welcome to the SciFirst MovieTalk episode. So in this episode, I will be discussing the 1990 dark comedy and creature feature sequel to 1984's horror comedy movie Gremlins, Gremlins 2, The New Batch, as directed once again by Joe Dante. In this movie, we catch up with Gizmo, the adorable Mogwai from the first movie, as voiced again by Howie Mandel, now orphaned after the death of his guardian and very dear friend Mr. Wing, as played by Keye Luke. Mogwais are an unusual breed of creature, to say the least, that come with some very interesting rules. Keep them away from bright light, especially sunlight. That's gonna kill them. Never ever get them wet. That has some interesting consequences. And the most important thing to remember of all, never ever feed them after midnight. Gizmo finds himself in the genetics laboratory of the Clamp Building, a towering skyscraper in the heart of Manhattan, owned by the reclusive and mysterious Daniel Clamp, as played by John Glover. But he is rescued by his old friend Billy Peltzer from the first movie, as played once again by Zach Galligan, who intends to take Gizmo home, much to the distress of his girlfriend Kate Beringer, as played once again by Phoebe Cates. After a mishap, however, Gizmo multiplies, and what then follows is sheer carnage and mayhem within the Clamp Building, which already, to be fair, had enough gremlins to begin with. The newly formed Mogwai don't stay so cute and cuddly for very long, and soon we are left with a new batch of gremlins running a rampage, getting ready to take New York by storm. It is then up to Billy and Kate, together with some new faces and a few old familiar ones, to find a way to stop the gremlin horde from descending on New York and bringing down utter and complete devastation upon the city. So, this movie has always been a childhood favourite of mine. It really has. I know that it gets a bit of a bad rep, especially against the original, which is just simply fantastic. But this film, it is a completely different kettle of fish, and it makes no attempts to be anything close to the original. It is not a film that takes itself too seriously, nor should it be taken too seriously. It is a tongue-in-cheek take on the genre, it really is, being very self-aware and almost being a very self-parody of itself at times. That is just absolutely fantastic in my book. From the very start of this movie, which has a Looney Tunes intro, may I add, with both Daffy Duck and Bugs Bunny featuring, you know this is going to be a totally different experience, and the film makes no apologies for it at all. It wants to set itself apart from the original, whilst yet still retaining, I suppose, many of the qualities that made that film great, you know? The film is completely off its head. It is zany and totally ludicrous, and for me, it works. I can't say it's as good as the original. It isn't, you know. I'm on that score, but they are almost like two completely different films. It almost seems wrong to kind of judge this movie by those same standards. It most certainly is quirky and extremely fun. You know, it's a film that you can watch in a group and just have a real right laugh with it. The first movie is more horror than comedy when all's said and done. The comedy in that was often very dark. This movie is a comedy through and through, very slapstick and cartoonish, and deliberately so. There is some mild horror, but this does kind of take somewhat of a back seat. It is not what this film is about. This time we are having much more fun with the Gremlins. You know, well, I suppose that's everybody but Gizmo and everybody else that's trapped in the Clamp Building. This time around, we also get lots and lots more Gizmo action. This time around, he takes more of a central role in the plot, which is fantastic to see. The film also features more Gremlins as well. This time with the clamp building, its television studios and the genetics laboratory providing ample and imaginative playground for the crazy critters. It really does. We do get to see them from many angles this time round, a lot more playful. And we even get a full-scale musical number of New York, New York from them at the end. Surreal? Yeah, very much so, but again, it works in context with the overall cartoonish nature of the film. We even have one that can talk after taking a brain hormone serum. The whole film has a wonderfully retro kind of mad scientist vibe, which I absolutely love. And none more so with the scenes that are actually set in the genetics laboratory. And let's not forget an amazing performance from Christopher Lee, who brings his own brand of sinister charm to the proceedings. Totally fantastic as Dr. Cushing Catheter, the head of the lab, and the way, he kind of quickly shifts to remorse when he thinks the Gremlins are a genetic experiment fighting back. It's brill. The special effects used in the movie are a little bit of a mixed bag these days. I must say that the puppetry is still fantastic. It's a fantastic treat to watch, and it holds up pretty well. However, the parts where we kind of have overlaced videos or imposed onto each other, especially on the scenes where Gizmo kind of moves, or the flying gremlin, yep, it has a flying gremlin, makes its appearance. They're looking kind of dated. I mean, at least they were on my DVD copy that I watched. As I said earlier, this film is very self-aware, and I know that style isn't for everybody. But given that the creators were actually going for a cartoon-like quality, having the characters address us as the audience makes you feel included. And I think this makes the film a lot more accessible to a younger audience. In fact, there is even a segment included in the movie that's deliberately intended to involve the audience with an excellent trick, which makes you think that the film has snapped. Or, in the case of the home video release, being chewed up in the machine, that is excellent. It caught me out every time, where we then have the Gremlins invading our own space, be it at home or at the cinema. Quite clever and extremely funny. Personally, I do actually prefer the home video version more than the theatrical release version, but they're both just simply superb. And I must say, they catch me out every time. They are a really nice touch to get some audience participation, to really make us feel part of that experience. And only in this film could that work. I know this film is very slapstick and not really in keeping with the original at all, but I can't help love it nonetheless. And that, for me, it is part of its charm. I think it kind of epitomises just what a gremlin actually is. The bug in the machine, if you like. Getting themselves into places where they shouldn't be. Being kind of more mischievous than actually outright evil. And the movie's playful tone captures this perfectly in my book. Overall, this is an extremely fun and self-aware movie, parodying not only other movies such as Batman, The Wizard of Oz, The Phantom of the Opera, but also pop culture from the early 1990s, world events, and of course, the Looney Tunes, The merchandising possibilities for the movie aren't even lost in the humour with this movie at all, Again, with it poking fun at itself. And the film studio, as a whole, for the myriad of possibilities that lay before them. Cute little stuffed toys with suction cups poking out of car windows. It's fantastic. It is even tongue-in-cheek enough to feature a critic, Leonard Maltin, I think. Yep, Leonard Maltin, who actually panned the first movie upon its release. And in the movie, he is actually panning the video release of the original Gremlins in the movie itself. What an absolute sport, that is a treat as well. It is a movie that is clinging on to that last piece of the 80s with a subtle amount of the 90s charm kind of thrown in for good measure. And all told, by the end of the film, it has put the Gremlins in such a light that you do kind of actually feel sorry for them. You know, they were so looking forward to sampling the delights of New York. And that is something I am certainly can sympathise with. So, that brings me to the end of this episode. I do hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, please leave a like. Please do hit that subscribe button for more movie reviews, trailer reactions, and other movie-related content. We've absolutely loved having you here at SciFirst MovieTalk. We would definitely love to have you back. But yes, most of all, thank you for joining us. And yeah, goodbye.